We are doing my wide receiver tier list. Ask me any start sit question down below and I will get to it. Starting it off in the S tier, and we are going to have a tier of Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, and Mike Evans. When we start this off, Tyreek Hill going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. You drafted Tyreek Hill in the top 3 picks. You're absolutely starting Tyreek Hill. Absolutely amazing talent for Tyreek Hill and situation. Move on to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and there was some debate. Like I said, this is not my rest of season rankings. This is my week 1 rankings. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to go up against the Rams. High projected totals in the Vegas sports books. Think it's going to be super high scoring. Absolutely, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown in week 1 in the S tier. The third tier, the third guy is going to be CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb is going up against the Cleveland Browns, and it's going to be a little bit of a defensive showdown, but we do know CeeDee Lamb, all the amazing talent that he had last year, everything that he was able to do, have him here in the S tier. Justin Jefferson, week 1 without Kirk Cousins, with Sam Darnold, going up against the New York Giants. I have this as an A+ matchup for Justin Jefferson. AJ Brown is the next guy in this tier. You know, he's the elite level, alpha level wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. They are playing the Green Bay Packers. I have this as an A level matchup, but we do know AJ Brown in that high level upside and pedigree. Of course, we got AJ Brown here, and then rounding out the S tier, which might be a surprise to some of you, it's going to be Mike Evans for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mr. 1,000-yard, 10-tutty down Mike. Washington, super easy defense to go up against. They're going to be playing against a rookie level quarterback. I think Tampa Bay gets up early in this game, so I am excited to see what Mike Evans can do in this, what is this, year 31 season for Mike Evans? Super pumped. Now we move on to the A tier, and Ja'Marr Chase starts off the A tier, and the reason that I have Ja'Marr Chase down here is because he hasn't been practicing. There's a little bit of the contract issue. So if you own Ja'Marr Chase, I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. I think he ends up playing, but I do think there is a little bit concern with that overall upside with Ja'Marr Chase in week 1. I hear you. So in a normal circumstance, I would be putting Ja'Marr Chase up there, but I'm recording this on Wednesday. The video is coming out on Wednesday. We'll have to see how Ja'Marr Chase ends up performing in week 1. Next guy in the tier is going to be Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is going to be playing in the Monday Night Football game. Jets versus the 49ers. It is a little bit of a hard defense, but Garrett Wilson is getting the Aaron Rodgers boost for me. Absolutely love some Garrett Wilson here in the A tier. Next guy is going to be Deebo Samuel, and it was really hard for me kind of in this A tier putting between Deebo Samuel and Puka Nacua. Deebo is going up against the Jets. We talked about how Vegas has the 49ers projected to score the most points this season on a touchdown basis. We know Deebo has a knack for getting in the end zone. Have Deebo Samuel here in the A tier. Puka Nacua is the next guy, and I think Puka Nacua maybe gets the bump down just because we know Cooper Kupp is 100% healthy in week 1. I'm not concerned. I know there's all the rumors of Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, who's going to do the kick return and the punt return, but with Puka Nacua, great level offense against Detroit. It is Matty Boy Stafford versus his old squad. Love some Puka Nacua here. Nico Collins, next guy in the tier. What are these snap shares? What is the target share going to look like in this Texans overall offense between Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell? We have Nico Collins going up against the Indianapolis Colts. A+ matchup for Nico Collins. Then we round out the tier with Jalen Waddle and Cooper Kupp. And I think the thing that we have to understand, Cooper Kupp in the A tier, it feels criminal. I think Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, this could be a Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua of like the Cooper Kupp circa day Robert Woods from a few seasons ago, where we have 2 top 12 wide receivers in this Rams overall offense, which I like. And then rounding out with Jalen Waddle. As much as I love Tyreek Hill in the matchup versus Jacksonville, I love it for Jalen Waddle as the wide receiver 2. We move on to the B tier, and the thing about the B tier is there's a lot of guys that you drafted ahead of some of the guys that happened in their tier. Like I said, this is week 1 rankings, baby. We like to project how we think things are going to happen. Devontae Adams starts off this tier. Devontae Adams is going up against the Chargers. It is an A-level matchup. The Chargers, I'm not worried about their secondary against Devontae Adams. The only thing I'm worried about with Devontae Adams is how Devontae Adams is going to do with that overall quarterback play. We move on to the next guy in the B tier, and it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison Jr., the thing that we have to understand, this is his first level rookie game. So if we see him absolutely explode, there's a chance that we are going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. on future weeks be in the A tier, be in the S tier. But since it's week 1, I am limiting my expectations, even though you probably had to draft him as your wide receiver 1, your wide receiver 2 on your fantasy football team. Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited. Hopefully it's a high scoring game. Vegas has it projected as a high scoring game. Maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. finds the end zone in this game and gets a ton of targets and a ton of receptions. Chris Olave, next guy here in the B tier. Chris Olave going up against the Carolina Panthers. I have this kind of like as a B level matchup for Chris Olave. Main reason is just because the defense for the Carolina Panthers with the secondary, as well as when we're looking at Chris Olave with his overall quarterback play. If we see some amazing things from Derek Carr, we can of course boost Chris Olave up the rankings up to this point in the B tier. Next guy's going to be Drake London. And a lot of people are excited about Drake London. Like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr. Drake London situation is very similar. Both have proven nothing in the NFL, but both have really great quarterbacks that we're excited for with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix for Drake London. Kirk Cousins in week 1, back off that Achilles. That'll be really interesting to see, but I do have have Drake London here in the B tier, as the Atlanta Falcons are going to be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. We move on to the next guy, and it's going to be DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf, the thing that I want to highlight with DK Metcalf going against Denver, not a great matchup. He's going to be matched up with Patrick Surtain, but Tyler Lockett is dealing with an injury, so I did bump up DK Metcalf and JSN a few spots. So DK Metcalf, do like that as the clear level alpha in the offense. Next guy is going to be Amari Cooper. The Browns are playing his back home Dallas Cowboys from where he played his second team in the NFL. So I do think this will be a little fun first week redemption game for Amari Cooper. Excited to see what he can do with Deshaun Watson in this overall offense. And then the last guy in the tier is going to be DJ Moore. And we all know DJ Moore was a top 6 wide receiver last year, so I don't need to harp on that. We do know this is Caleb Williams' first rookie game. Will Caleb Williams come out and look like the second coming to Patrick Mahomes, or will Caleb Williams look like a little bit of a rookie that is super talented? DJ Moore versus Tennessee, pretty good defense for Tennessee, so I have DJ Moore ending it off here in the B tier. When we move on to the C tier has one more player. It's a little bit bigger of a tier. We started off with Brandon Ayuk, who will be going up against the Jets defense, and I think Brandon Ayuk, the reason I put Brandon Ayuk down here and Deebo Samuel up, I know they are very closely ranked, but I believe Brandon Ayuk, and all the reports are coming out that, of course, Sauce Gardner is going to be trailing Brandon Ayuk because Deebo Samuel gets used out of slot. He's not fully on the X, so Brandon Ayuk's going to get that Sauce Gardner matchup, which I don't necessarily love for Brandon Ayuk in week 1. Not to say that Brandon Ayuk isn't talented. I just have Brandon Ayuk here in the C tier. Next guy is going to be Malik Neighbors, and Malik Neighbors, we are excited. The hype is building for Malik Neighbors going up against Minnesota, like a B-level matchup. Is Malik Neighbors with Daniel Jones going to be able to produce for fantasy football? That is why I have him sitting here pretty in the C tier. Next guy in the C tier is going to be Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith, like we said, is going up against the Green Bay Packers. This is a B-level matchup. He's not going to have to go up against Jair Alexander, but how many points is his team going to score? I mean, Vegas has this projected as a fairly medium-level scoring game, so I like Devontae Smith here in the C tier. We'll see how his wide receiver 2 season this year goes for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next guy is going to be George Pickens, wide receiver 1, going up against the Atlanta Falcons. How is that quarterback play going to do? Because we all know he's going to get funneled the most targets in this overall offense. What are these target shares going to look like? That is why I have George Pickens here at this tier. Next guy is going to be T. Higgins. T. Higgins might be the wide receiver 1 this week if Jamar Chase doesn't play. So there's a chance that T. Higgins goes absolutely boosting up the rankings when we're looking at this overall Cincinnati Bengals offense playing the New England Patriots. It's probably going to be a blowout, which seems bold to say, but I do think T. Higgins is a fairly safe player if Jamar Chase is playing. If Jamar Chase doesn't play, we will be pushing T. Higgins probably up into the back end of the B tier. We move on to the next 2 guys in this tier, and it's going to be Stephon Diggs and Zay Flowers. And like I said, I do have Stephon Diggs as a clear wide receiver 2 in this offense compared to a guy like Tank Dell. I would say the Houston Texans offense this week is a little bit weird to rank out, but I am excited for Stephon Diggs in this Houston Texans offense. So I like Stephon Diggs here in this matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. And then, of course, Zay Flowers going up in that Thursday night football game. I do have him here in the C tier. We move on to the D tier. And when we're looking at the overall D tier, we got Michael Pittman Jr., Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, Christian Watson. Michael Pittman Jr. is the clear alpha going up against the Houston Texans. It is an AFC South divisional game. Excited to see Anthony Richardson ball. I think Anthony Richardson has a lot to prove, especially with seeing CJ Stroud ball out and a lot of people not talking about Michael Pittman Jr. and talking about Anthony Richardson as an elite level quarterback. I'm excited to see what Michael Pittman Jr. can do. I have historically said I don't like the overall talent, but I think the volume is going to be there for Michael Pittman Jr. this week. Next guy is going to be Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry, Jaden Daniels, rookie level quarterback. When we're looking at Terry McLaurin going up against Tampa Bay, you could have maybe sold me that we should have pushed him higher up our rankings, but I did not push him any higher. You could maybe make the argument that he should be in the C tier, but I have him supplanted here in the D tier. Like I said, guys, this isn't saying that he's a D tier quality wide receiver. This is just the matchup and the overall rankings. So if you count down the wide receivers, that's where you're going to get my wide receiver rankings. I need to start adding little numbers, but that is something that needs to be added on another day. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, Christian Watson to round out the D tier. Dave Canales and Deontay Johnson, I think that's the interesting part about this D tier. I've been high on Deontay Johnson, so there's a chance that we absolutely think Deontay Johnson blows up, has himself an amazing level day. I just have him here in the D tier because not that I don't want to push him higher. That's the wrong wording. I just want to see a week 1 of what that target share is going to look like, how efficient he's going to be in this overall offense. Chris Godwin, I think I've seen a lot higher across the board, but when I did my overall projections, I just had Chris Godwin here. We'll have to see if in this year 29 season that Chris Godwin can absolutely emerge and demolish. And we move down to the E tier. When we're in the E tier, we got Tank Dell, Xavier Worthy, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, JSN, Ladd McConkey, Curtis Samuel, and Rome Odunze starting this tier off. And the part that I do want to say, Tank Dell could potentially be the wide receiver 2 on the Texans, but I need to see it before I believe it. And so that is where I have Tank Dell leading off this E tier. Xavier Worthy is maybe the most explosive wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. No Hollywood Brown this week, so we are excited to see what Xavier Worthy's going to be able to do. We move on to two guys like Keenan Allen, who's going to be a veteran, and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins has been dealing with that injury, so that is why I have DeAndre Hopkins pushed down the board. Keenan Allen, of course, like I said, this rookie level quarterback, I still think DJ Moore's going to be an absolutely electric player. Where's the target share for Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, who I have in this back end of the tier? Those are the questions of why I have these two guys ranked here. JSN, I think he's going to be the clear wide receiver 2 this week with the injury to Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's banged up. I'm not saying that he's not going to play. I just don't think he's going to be there in the wide receiver 2 sets. Then I rounded out the E tier with Ladd McConkey, who we're assuming is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Chargers. We're excited to see what that looks like with Justin Herbert, and then Curtis Samuel for the Buffalo Bills. And rounding it out in my final tier, down in the F tier, we have Brian Thomas Jr., rookie level wide receiver. And like I said, I think it's easier for me to project guys like a Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., even like a Ladd compared to a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., even though Brian Thomas Jr. had a ton of highlight plays in the preseason. Have Brian Thomas here in the F tier as, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The matchup isn't the best for them going up against Miami, but they probably are going to have to throw the ball to stay in the game. So that could potentially bode well for Brian Thomas and maybe is a little bit of a low ranking for me. Then we got Tyler Lockett. Like we said, he's dealing with a little bit of that injury. I think JSN, I do think passes him this year. So this also could be me underestimating Tyler Lockett like I always do. And then he always finishes as a top 20 wide receiver each and every year. So we'll see how Tyler Lockett kind of pans out this week, but I do have him here in the F tier. Jordan Addison's the next guy. How Jordan Addison is going to develop with Sam Darnold, we know it's not going to matter for Justin Jefferson. That dude's absolutely elite. Doesn't matter who's slinging him the ball. He's a top 5 wide receiver. Jordan Addison, I need to see it. Keon Coleman, the hype has been there, but we haven't seen the on-field production. Is the ranking of Curtis Samuel in the tier above, is that going to look dumb after this week? Potentially, if Keon Coleman absolutely comes out and balls out. Jacoby Myers, Gabe Davis, Josh Palmer, and Romeo Doubs all round out this tier for me. So there's a lot of excitement in my wide receiver tier rankings. Like I said, guys, you guys need to be considering your start sit decisions this week. So let me know what questions I can answer for you. Happy to answer any start sit questions, answering all comments under this video. So I just appreciate all the support. Hit that like and subscribe button if you like fantasy football. On the way to 3,000 subscribers once you're part of this community, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.